Please, the Lord. Now, Ma'am, let's move over to Bukaila's demise, the murder. Now, when LaRue testified, he said that Michaela wanted to get out of the group, and that accused 2 would have said that she was a loose end and she had to be cut off. Do you have any knowledge of that?
It's not true.
Can you tell us what happened on that specific day, Michaela Day?
Before that day, Zak and I spoke, and he told me that she wants to go to the police and she's not happy. But even before that, he was not happy with her either because she was unfaithful to him. So the two of the things together, he felt that if he had to kill her, he would make a mess of it, be too emotional, you know, not be able to do it properly in a humane way, I don't know how to put that, and get away with it because he would lose his head, basically. So he wanted me to help him with that, so I said I would.
And how was your help?
He gave me a key and a remote, so I went on a day that I knew she was going to sleep late, on her off day, on a Thursday, she had off days, and she said something about sleeping late, so I went there and went into the house and I killed her.
Were you alone?
Yes.
Can't you?
Yes, sir.
Just explain, how did you get the remote? Who gave it to you?
Zak Valentine.
When did he give that to you?
The previous day.
Now, after the murder, did you at any stage go back to accused 2 and inform her of what happened?
No.
Okay.
No, I had to make sure, if I remember correctly, it was school holiday that week, or because I was off. I had to make sure that I get back to my house, get cleaned up, get rid of the evidence first, get back to my house, get cleaned up, and arrive at her house like normally to watch DVDs like we would have done, so that by the time that they find out that Michaela is dead, they will all remember that I was just there the whole day watching DVDs with them. And Zak as well, he was there when I arrived. He wasn't supposed to be there still, but he was there and he showed me it's fine, she's sleeping. He said he would give her maybe something if she didn't want to sleep the previous night because she went out on a work function. But most probably she won't need anything because she drinks a lot at the work function. So I don't recall whether he did give her something or not. But so, sorry, I'm losing my own
No, that's fine.
thing here. So basically what happened is afterwards, and that is just what I heard, he went with a, and he told me that's what he's going to do, he went with a house agent because they wanted to sell the place they lived in, so that she would be with him when he discovered the body so that it wouldn't look suspicious. And that's basically it.
And that is your testimony that at no stage, either prior or after Michaela's murder, you discussed any of this with accused number 2?
Not with her or anyone else, just with Zak.
So the testimony of LaRue saying that happened, would you say that was not true?
It's definitely untrue.
If we move over to Joshua, do you know Joshua, Ria's son?
I don't know him, I know of him and I've seen him. I've heard of him, but I never personally met him.
Now, LaRue testified that accused 2 instructed all of you in this friendship group to scout the whereabouts of Joshua, and if anyone sees him, Joshua needs to be followed and information conveyed back to accused 2. What do you know about that?
Nothing. It's not true.
You were never a part of it?
No.
Any discussions? LaRue also testified that he had to dig graves for Joshua in the Krugersdorp vicinity. Do you have any knowledge of that?
No.
He also mentioned digging graves at a cemetery.
cemetery. That's correct, my lord. Correct.
Do you know anything about that?
Thank you, my lord. With regard to the Meyers murders, Leroux also testified that accused 2 was very involved in the planning of these murders. Are you aware of that, ma'am?
It's not true.
What happened that day of the murders? Can you inform the court?
Yes. Zak and I previously visited the Meyers, and on the day that they were killed was maybe the third time. I'm not sure how many times we were there, because we arrived at the gate and then they weren't available. Arranged a meeting and then they weren't available. We were supposed to give them financial advice. It's a long story. Okay. But so on that day, they were there, and unlike the previous times, the children were not there. Once before, the children were there. The children weren't there, so everything was fine. So we went ahead. Now the plan was to rob them and bind them and put them in the pool. The pool didn't have water in it before. When we arrived there that day, it did. But previously they were still working on the pool, and we bargained on that. Then nobody would find them. That was how I understood what we were supposed to do. Also, I wore long-sleeved clothes and jewelry to conceal my tattoos and everything. We gave wrong names when we saw them. Used a SIM card that I threw away afterwards. Stuff like that, so that they wouldn't be able to identify us afterwards. But then when we got there, I had a gun. So at a point when everybody was comfortable sitting and talking, I said, this is not going to work for me. And I took out the gun and I said, lie down. And we bound them with a between Zak and I, between us, we bound them with a cable ties. But he started acting weird. He always wanted to play around with arrows and swords and stuff like that. So on that day he had like weapons concealed on his body that I thought was like a little boy going on playing. But then he pulled one of these knives out, a big one, and he had that in his hand, and he started acting weird, and his voice changed. He was like speaking like that, funny, and said, lie down, and very, very aggressive with him, and the man didn't want to keep quiet. So we kept on yelling at him, and then at a point he looked at me like he's asking me a question, and we were asking them where is the key for the safe, because we were told by John Barnard that they kept money there. And on a previous occasion when we were there, the one deceased actually bragged to me and said that he has 46 million rand in his safe. He just wants this venture that we were supposedly dealing now with him, getting him more money. The extra 4 million he wanted just for that extra, because he was going to start some water world place in Natal. Okay, so I knew there was money there, and we had to get the key of him. The man had a thing on his belt with a key in, and I wanted to get that from him, and he kept on getting his mouth thing off and saying stuff, and then Zak just went berserk and he started stabbing them. And I basically went into shock, because that was not how we planned to do it, and we didn't know where the money was yet. We didn't even have the key. I did, after he stabbed them, find the key on the man in that pouch on his belt, but never found the safe, because then Zak totally went berserk, and he was running around like a headless chicken. And I went upstairs to go and look for the safe, because I had a feeling it had to be in their room or somewhere thereabouts. And he came after me with the stairs and said, no, we have to go, we have to go, we have to go. So I said, what about the money and everything? And he just, no, we have to go. I'm going with or without you. So it was a cleaning spree of picking up things and making sure there's nothing. Beforehand, we got gloves and everything, so you knew just you had to make sure you take everything with you that you brought. And then while we were there, someone phoned to come in as well, and I had to change my voice and talk on the phone there. And when we left, there were cars coming by, and I was standing at the gate to hold it so that he can come out, because we couldn't find the remote to open the gate with. He had to press the thing there where you talk on the thing to come in, that intercom thing. Yeah, and then jump in the car and come down, so I had to stand in front of the eye at the gate to get him out. It was all crazy. And then as we left, where normally I would get rid of stuff like driving around and throw it in the dustbin far away, we got rid of the stuff out of the windows, which was very stupid.
You said that certain things did not go according to your plan, or the plan. What was the plan and who planned this? Who planned the plan?
Zak and John and I. John was not supposed to be actively going there ever or anything because he didn't want to be recognized, because we weren't supposed to kill them. And he didn't want to be recognized. He was supposed to be like the driver in the car or whatever, but in the end he was too scared to do anything, so he didn't go. He stayed at home. So it was just Zak and I. That's the first thing that went wrong. Then Zak behaving weirdly. I have all sorts of suspicions until today of someone else being involved in the plan, like the children of the mayors, because I know that he knew the one son, and it was very weird that the father told me there was 46 million rand in the safe, and then afterwards I heard people say there were 36, and I kept on thinking, I was let out on this plan. I was there, but there was something more there. Maybe there were millions distributed between Zak and people. I don't know. That's...
I must request you just to slow down
Sorry.
a little bit so that it can give our colleagues and the Lordship a chance to write everything down. Now, John Barnard, in his testimony, he said that after the murder, you phoned accused number 2. He was actually in the room with accused number 2, where you phoned accused number 2 and gave a feedback. What happened at the mayor's house? What do you say about that?
I never took a phone with me when I killed anyone, so I couldn't have done that. Phone signals?
Then LaRue also testified that an amount of 600 rand was given by you to Cecilia directly after the murder.
I never spoke to her. She never knew I was there, and there was money in the wallet in the bakkie that was standing outside, and I gave that to Zak. And we threw the wallet out of the window and the phones and everything.
With regard to the faking of Zak's death to claim the policy, who planned this?
Well, we were supposed to go for lie detector tests for the mayor's murders. And
I must stop you.
that's why he planned it.
Okay, carry on.
So Zak didn't want to go for the lie detector test, so he said he had to fake his death. I wasn't scared to go for the lie detector test because I didn't kill them, so I thought maybe I could get away with I don't know how it works, you know. So I wasn't that scared to go. But he was scared because he knew he killed them, and if they do a lie detector test on him, it was people from Krugersdorp police station that said on the 7th of January we were supposed to be there. I remember the date because I know someone that has a birthday that day, and he didn't want to go. So in December already, he said he has to fake his own death so that he can get away and go and live in a little house at the sea or something.
Okay.
So that's why he planned his death. Okay, so he wanted to pretend to go on holiday. Now, at that stage, LaRue was already involved. Before, LaRue didn't go with us on anything, but what happened is, in between the first murder and there, I discovered that Zak made use of LaRue for cleaning up afterwards, after he killed Nat. Apparently, then already had him help clean his car and everything. I never knew LaRue was involved or that he knew about it. He kept it away from me. I didn't know my son was involved. So by the time that we got there to Zak's faking it, by then I knew already, and LaRue was actively involved. Okay, so it was LaRue and I and John and Zak. And what we basically did is we had to get someone to be a body in the car and then burn the car so that it would look like Zak died. So on the 16th of December, on the public holiday after having family day with everyone and everyone seeing us and everything, we left. Zak picked up, I wasn't with him in the car when he did, he picked up Jared Jackson that we knew from before, who wanted to go somewhere with him, and he said he thinks they're more or less the same build, so we took him along. John and I drove in the car behind them. LaRue and Zak was in the car in the front with Jared, and LaRue sat behind Jared so that he could strangle him. So they basically had stuff to drink as well and whatever. They was like they're going on a trip. And then halfway to our destination, the car started swinging around on the road, so I was a bit worried because I could see they were trying to strangle him and he didn't want to die. Then a little bit further they stopped and they said they weren't sure if he's dead. Zak had his insulin that he used for diabetes. For a backup plan, if the guy didn't want to die, could give him an overdose of that. It was Leroux's first killing, so they weren't sure if between the two of them, if Leroux would be able to do it. So he took his insulin along. So when they stopped the car at a farm road there, they asked me, they didn't know whether he's dead. So they called me to the front car to come and see, and Leroux was still holding he called it a chokey around his neck. And I told him the guy's definitely dead. So then they didn't want to drive with a dead guy. They were too scared between the three of them. So they came and they put him in the Mercedes with me in the back, and I drove him, and they drove the car in the front. And then they stopped what felt like ages later, I don't know how many kilometers, at the spot that Zak picked. And we swapped cars so that they pushed the Mercedes off the road and put Jared in the driver's seat and torched the whole thing. And then I was already waiting in the other car, in the driver, and I drove them all back.
Okay, let us just go backwards a couple of steps. You testified now that Zak and John and yourself planned this whole exercise of him faking his death because of the polygraph test.
Yeah.
Now, John and Leroux both testified that the reason for this operation, let me call it that way, was done because they wanted money to claim from his policy. Are you aware of that? That being the main reason for faking it.
I'm aware of the allegations, but it's not true. There was never any talk about a policy until he died. How would he get the money? So.
Now, then you also said that you drove behind Zak, and you saw his vehicle moving, and then you said that the guy didn't want to die. Why did you make such a comment? Because you could not obviously see what's happening in the vehicle in front of you.
Well, I heard from them afterwards as well, but it was obvious he was resisting. If you sit in the front seat next to the person driving and you flail around, then maybe that, I assumed that's why he was going like that. And they told me afterwards, yes, he was hitting around with his hands. So Zak couldn't drive properly because of the person next to him hitting him in the steering wheel and that.
So then the car was set alight, and what happened then?
I forgot to say he actually injected him with the insulin then. Because he started breathing again. That's what I meant with he didn't want to die. He looked like he was dead and he started breathing again. So I said inject him with the insulin, and it went in, so he was still alive. That was when we stopped at the road there. Okay, when they torched it, we drove a few kilometers and then stopped, and they threw the cans of this paraffin or petrol, whatever they used, I don't know. They threw it in the veld, and we drove home. And that's it. Okay, and driving home, I mean, I drove the car to where Zak said he was originally going to hide, at a place in Krugersdorp there where you can pay for a room. The herberg or something like that. Yes. I stopped there and dropped him off, and he went in. He pre-arranged for him to have a room there before.
Now, Zak testified that he became unconscious while driving towards Clarence at Van der Bijl Park, and then near Peter Steyn, he actually saw you, where you told him that you must just stay as you are. There's trouble, but we will explain that tomorrow. You must come with us back to Krugersdorp. Do you know anything about that?
No, he's lying. course, he's lying.
Who drove the vehicle back to Krugersdorp?
Who towed the vehicle?
Who drove?
I drove the vehicle back.
And where was accused one sitting?
Zak was sitting in the back. I can't remember with LaRue and John which one was sitting where, but Zak had a wig that he put on, so that because of his slightly bald head, it's very obvious if people see him on cameras, if I maybe trip off a speed camera or anything, he was disguised and sitting at the back. And there was nothing wrong with him.
You also testified that after sleeping at the herberg, the next day you and accused 2 visited him.
It's a lie.
What did you
I've
say?
never been at the herberg. Okay, not never. Maybe 10 years ago, once I went to fetch someone there. I never went there. I didn't want to be seen there. If Zak gets caught, I didn't want to be part of that. So I never went there. Cecilia never knew about it, and she never went anywhere like that with me.
We also had testimony that Cecilia would have a vision of Zak having some mishap, something happening to him on his way to Clarence, and that you had to follow him, you and others had to follow him to make sure that he's okay.
No, who said that? No, that's not true.
So you deny that.
Yes, definitely.
So, when at first would you say that accused 2 knew about something happening to accused 1?
You mean now with Zak faking his death?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I get a bit confused with the accused 1 and 2.
The 2 is Cecilia.
Okay.
1 is Zak.
The next morning, I went downstairs and I said, listen, I haven't heard back from Zak. And he said he's going, that's how Zak and I planned it. He said he's going to send me an SMS or WhatsApp or whatever to let me know that he's arrived safely at the place where he was going to do his fishing. And then Cecilia also tried to get hold of him and she couldn't. And I also said that I left messages the previous night already on his phone to say, contact us, we're worried about you and whatever. He was pretending to not feel well the previous day as part of the plan, but there wasn't anything wrong with him. So Cecilia and I got very worried, and eventually I can't remember who now said, well, why don't you phone the police and hear if there were any accidents? And we were phoning, and before I could even get hold of a policeman to tell me there's something wrong, Cecilia got through to the, I think, Marinda Steyn police, and they told her that there was a car accident there with a black Mercedes, or a burned out car or whatever, I don't know what the words were. So, and we know he drives the black Mercedes and he was on that road, so that was the first that I think that she heard about.
Were you aware that at that stage Cecilia was the beneficiary of Zak's life policy?
Yes and no, because he always said that his parents and Cecilia and Michaela were, and then Michaela died and I never knew how he changed it. So, as I said, the policy was never discussed with me. It was never an issue. The issue here was for Zak to get away. So, according to me, until everything happened, Zak and Michaela and his parents were a third each beneficiaries on his. That was in my knowledge. Obviously, I was wrong.
Now, were you not concerned that LaRue would have told accused 2 what actually occurred?
Yes, I was
On
scared
the
of that the whole
road.
time. I was scared of that the whole time, but since he committed the actual crime, he wanted to, for the first time, do that. I didn't think he would, split on himself, give himself away. But yes, that's when the nightmare started. That's when I realized this is getting out of hand now.
You testified in all these murders, accused 2 knew nothing. Why did you keep it from her? She was your close friend.
I would say the first most important thing for me was fear of rejection, because she's not the type of person that would associate herself with it. Fear of getting caught is the biggest, for any person, your instinct. She would say I had to go and confess. She did. I would imagine how I told her, and she would say, I will help you, they'll let you see a psychologist, they will do this, they will do that, and no. And then of course her health as well. At that point it was leading a double life with making sure she's okay, making sure my children is okay, which then ended up to being just Marcel, and praying for Leroux not to do anything stupid.
Now, accused 2 testified that she actually believed the whole story of Zak's death. What would you say?
Yeah, she did. And the thing is, she was very upset and she cried and everything. So I cried as well. I'm not a very good actress or anything, but if you love someone and they're very upset, it's easy to cry with them. So it was not that difficult for me to pretend that I was upset with his death as well, because she was really genuinely distraught.
Leroux also testified that on that specific day, that's on the 16th of December 2015, himself and accused 2 crushed a number of pills for the sole purpose of putting it in a juice, and that would be given to Jared on the way. Do you have any knowledge of that?
No, he's lying. I don't know why he would think to say anything like that, because Cecilia wasn't involved. She didn't know anything, and on that day we were having a huge family day at her house. So there was again that situation where everybody was visiting in her room. The only lonely place where you could do something where no one would see would be in the toilet, and the toilet's very small. So I don't know where, if they had to crush pills together, they would have done that. It doesn't make any sense for him thinking out a story like that.
Do you have any knowledge about the faking of ID with regard to providing Zak with a new identification whilst in hiding?
I know at a point Jacques de Villiers stayed with him, and afterwards he said that he left his ID book there and some of his other stuff. So when the faking of his death came, when we discussed it, he said he would use his ID. So I don't know what he did with it, if he changed it or whatever. I thought he was going to use it just like that.
Do you have any knowledge of any ID being produced under false pretenses by any of the members of the group?
No, I just thought he had Jacques' ID to use. So if you would tell me that he changed it, and I saw in the dockets there was ID fraud, then I'm assuming he put his photo in there. But
you have no knowledge of this?
No.
Let us move over to the McGregor murder. There was also testimony of Leroux that alluded to the fact, or he actually said that accused 2 actually planned or was in charge of planning this murder. What would you say to that?
It's not true. John knew the man. He told Zak and me about him long before it ever happened. I already heard of this guy more than a year or whatever before. It was a friend of John's. And at the point that I went to kill him, it was to get money for Zak to pay for the plot. So it was between Zak and Leroux and me and John, although it was very difficult because Zak was already living on the plot then. Communication was very difficult.
Is that the plot in Talton that you're referring to?
Yeah, I think it falls under Talton. It's close to where Glenn McGregor lived, actually, not far from it.
Okay, so tell us what happened. Where you moved from, who was with you when going to McGregor?
Including going to his work and what we
No, let's talk about, let's concentrate on the day of his murder.
Okay, on the day of his murder, it was John that drove the car, and Leroux and I went there with him. John waited in the car under a tree behind the fence sort of the other house there, and Leroux and I went in. I told him a story that I want to see him about some business of a testament or something and tax, and he let us in. He was very jolly. It was like he was expecting us and we were family. It was very weird. And then again, like previously, I took out the gun and I said, well, this is not how it's going to work. This is basically a robbery. And he started laughing and didn't take it seriously. And that was a point where LaRue sort of manhandled him and said, lie down or whatever, lie down on the floor. And he actually lunged for LaRue like a rugby lunge, going for someone. And I panicked at that moment and I pulled the trigger and I shot him twice. Then he was man down. Then I basically wanted to get money from him first, so we bound him and we searched the house and couldn't find anything. He didn't even have bank cards or anything there. It was like somebody told him beforehand, be careful, that don't have anything at your house, you live on a plot or whatever. There was just nothing. So all that was left, I then decided, is to take his phone and do some internet banking, which was not very smart, but I thought I would think of an excuse later. Then I asked him he was lying on the floor, I asked him for his PIN. He gave me the correct one, then lied the wrong one, so it took quite a while. Eventually I got into his bank account. There was in that bank account just 6,000 rand, which I then transferred to one of my bank accounts. And then he wasn't dead yet, so LaRue said he wanted to strangle him, which he did. But they say he died of the bullet wound, so I think he was going to die anyhow.
Just again, the figure, what amount was transferred? Did you transfer?
6,000 rand.
Just coming back to when arriving and the mode of transport. John testified that he was actually the driver of the vehicle and that he waited inside the car.
Mm-hmm. John.
You never,
yeah.
That's John.
Mm.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. John drove the car there, and LaRue and I went in, and John stayed in the car under the tree.
And LaRue testified that Marcel was actually with during the murder. What did you have to say about that?
No, she was never there.
So LaRue was not talking the truth?
No, he's lying.
Why would you think that he would have framed his sister?
He's been jealous of her since she was born, so she always achieved what he didn't achieve in life. He always said that I spoiled her. So I can just think it's one of the reasons.
LaRue also testified that 6,000 rand that you transferred from the victim's account to yours, you actually told him to withdraw that money the next day.
No. I withdrew the money from the ATM the next day because I didn't want the money in my account.
And what did you do with the money?
Paid my debts, put petrol in my car, few
Evidence,
of it, and then the rest I gave to LaRue to take to Zak at the plot.
because the evidence from LaRue was that he drew the money and then the money was then used to pay accused two's psychologist, shrink, as he eloquently
No.
called it.
The why I went for the 6,000 and it was a nice amount is it cost about 3,000 rand a month to keep Zak with food and a place to live and everything. So that would have been for 2 months. So I just covered a bit of my costs with it, and then the rest I sent to Zak.
Let's go over to the Schofield murder. Who planned this one?
Basically LaRue and I.
How did the planning come about?
The thing is, we couldn't keep up with taking Zak money, and Zak was starting to threaten to go to the police and he wanted to phone his grandmother. He was missing his grandmother, and he was threatening all different ways and we were too far in this story to now say, okay, now we're going to go to the police. So we had to keep him happy. So the ideal way was to then eventually get him to go and live somewhere else and take care of himself under a different identity. But for then, we had to get him at least enough money every month to pay the plot. And the woman had my phone number, and she phoned me at school and said he's not paid his rent yet and stuff like that. So the pressure was a bit high. And he started walking around in the area looking for a job and did ridiculous things like that. So between LaRue and I, we decided, well, then we must get more money, and he said, well, I don't know who said it first, but he basically thought of the plan that Zak has all these people that he knows that has a lot of money. He has clients and co-workers he was a financial advisor. So LaRue had access to his papers and stuff because he worked for him. So he came up with the numbers. Which one of them was first again? Sorry, did you say Schofield? Because
Yeah, let's
Schofield
talk about
was my broker as well.
Yeah. So I understand now the planning and why the planning was done. What was accused two's role, if any, in the planning of this murder?
She had nothing to do with anything. She didn't know anything about it. In fact, at that point in time, I drove to school with a bicycle and she forbid me to do it because she said it's too dangerous. When these murders took place, she insisted that I don't drive my bicycle because I was the same age as some of these people and it's dangerous. She didn't know anything about anything.
Because LaRue testified specifically that accused two gave him instructions to actually look for someone, again, with money. And after the murder, he had to give the victim's cards to accused two. What did you say on that?
No, he's lying.
And then, with the victim's cards, he said he bought a number of stuff, inter alia a jacket for accused number two, which he wore to court a number of times. What did you say on that?
What I said when I pleaded guilty, I didn't know about the money that he spent. He was supposed to every time draw money and then take it to Zak. So in the end of the day, I didn't know about money that he apparently bought stuff with and everything. And I was under the impression mostly that we got like 3,000 rand out of their cards. And I understand there's a much bigger amount with one of the deceased that I never knew about. That would have solved our problems for months, but I didn't know about it. I believed him when he said he only could get 1.5 from this and 1.5 from that or whatever.
Then with the McAlpine murder, who did the planning of that operation?
He knew someone that knew someone that knew someone that knew LaRue.
Who's he, ma'am?
Alpine, Mr. Alpine.
Yes.
LaRue knew someone that knew someone that knew him, and he was a rugby coach and stuff like that. And also, I assumed that he's one of Zak's friends as well, that he knew through him, because of they working together with the people that are brokers and stuff. I don't know what job he did.
Was accused two in any way involved in the planning
No, she
of
was
this murder?
not. No.
Do you know if she had any knowledge prior?
No, I think she would have done something if she had any knowledge prior of any of these. She didn't know about it.
So what happened that day when Mr. McAlpine was murdered? You tell the court?
The same as with Schofield, and the same we did with Lategan. Invited them to my flat. LaRue actually said he wanted a policy for him and his fiancée or something he arranged, and then he said they must meet him at Key West. And then before they could get there, he would phone and then say, that was with the two men beforehand. And he would say, no, he can't make it there, they had to come to this address. And then he gave my flat address, and then they came there and came inside, and I would be busy in the kitchen washing dishes and looking homely. And the moment that they're inside, I would come out as well and with a gun, and then we would tie them up, ask for their bank cards and stuff. And the moment that I got their pins, LaRue strangled them.
LaRue also testified that accused two came up from her flat up to your flat, and she actually kicked the body of Mr. McAlpine.
It's not true. She never knew about any of it, and the main thing always was that thing that my flat is on 2 floors above hers. I always had to make sure that I go down in time to let it look as if I was just there like every normal day. She would never come upstairs for anything like that. She would not even come upstairs if I told her, listen, I broke my leg. She would send someone upstairs.
With regard to the Lategan, the estate agent's murder, who planned this murder?
The same again, LaRue and I, to get money for Zak. Obviously, John wasn't really as involved. He would just be there and say, okay, he's going along. If there's something to be done, he helped to get the bodies in the car and drive the car and leave it somewhere and stuff like that. But he wasn't in the planning. He would just go along with that. the thing is, then LaRue said he doesn't know any other broker or whatever that he can now think of that would be easy enough to do. So we paged through the Krugersdorp news and saw a photo, and between us decided, you know what, those are people that come out to you, and these people have a lot of money, they sell houses, let's try that one.
So what happened that day of the murder?
I had arranged, I had to phone them. I had to phone because a person would not want to sell a house to a young person like LaRue, so I made an arrangement and said my husband was still in the Cape and I had to look for houses along here, and she came to the front there at the hospital. Unfortunately left her car right in that street. That was not the idea. And came upstairs, and then exactly the same procedure. Said this is actually a robbery and we want your money and what. And then she had long stories about wanting to open up an account on her, you know, like open up her banking so that she can transfer money so that we can draw it and whatever. And I didn't have patience with that whole story, so we didn't get a lot of money out of that one either. It was actually not very successful. But then
How did she die?
strangled her. Sorry?
How did she die?
LaRue strangled her as well.
Again, are you saying that the accused two had nothing to do or any prior or after knowledge
Nothing.
of this murder?
Nothing.
Now, it was also said by LaRue that accused two instructed him to take the body elsewhere because of the fact that Mrs. Latergan had a branded vehicle. Do you know anything about this?
I told him, listen, now you can't just go and do the same as with the previous, because what they did before, him and John would take the dustbin with the wheels and wheel the person down, put them in their own car, and what John would actually go out and fetch the person's car and put it in my car space. There was always space there if I pulled my car out. So I would leave my car out of his space before. Then he would pull the person's car underneath the flat, and quickly they would put them in there and then remove the person. But with her, we couldn't do that because her car was already standing there with our cameras at the hospital. So we had to put her in my car and go and dump her somewhere else. So John knows all the Dalton and that area. I can't drive you there again. But yes, we dumped her in Randfontein or somewhere there in between.
What is the main reason that after all these murders occurred, you never hinted towards accused two, despite being your very good friend, of any of these murders?
The further it went and the more that it became, the less I could tell her. And even after we were in jail already, it took me almost 2 years to get so far as to get my guts together and tell Cecilia and Marcel that I am actually part of this.
Do you know, or did you know Candace Ellison, this is Jared's fiancée?
From meeting her on the street and coming to ask for stuff, yes. And they once bathed in my house.
Did you meet them at accused two's place?
I met them on the pavement on the streets in front of accused two's place. I met them at President, all sorts of different places. I can't remember the first time I saw them, but they would sell sweets and stuff like that sometimes, or they would just come and ask for stuff. So I knew a lot of people like that in Krugersdorp.
Were you aware that both of them were heroin addicts?
Yes. Yeah, Jared would actually tell you about it.
Do you know who developed the Know Your Enemy manual?
Apparently it's a point of dispute, but I always thought that Ria wrote the stuff and Cecilia assisted her with what do you call it? Research. Yeah, sorry, research.
Were you aware that accused two and Candace actually did a lot of research with regard to this course material?
Semi-aware, yes. I know they were always busy together looking for stuff to help Ria. So, yeah, I wasn't always aware of for what it was, but, yeah.
Did you ever see the content of any of these research material?
Well, not the research material as such. I saw the end product. I didn't know your enemy course.
And what, according to you, was the main gist of this, the contents of the research?
Well, basically what Ria's whole ministry was about, to inform people to stay away from the darker side and more detail, so that they could not get caught up in the wrong stuff. She used to take it to schools and places, especially because of people getting caught up in wrong stuff. That file contained information about this is stuff that is wrong. Don't get caught up, basically.
Did you attend any of these Know Your Enemy courses?
I attended one course, yes.
Now, during the attendance of this course, Ria also acknowledged the fact that she used various examples of satanic rituals, etc., etc.
So she always had
remember
slides
that?
and goods, you know, things she would put on the table and stuff. Yeah, she had lots of, you know, I don't know what you call it in English.
Did the accused two's name ever come up in these documents or any of the lecturing material during the course Know Your Enemy?
While I was there, no.
Were you aware at any stage that her name was used by Ria
Yes.
during the courses?
Yes, you would often hear her, well, I didn't know during the courses as such, but you'd often hear her talking to people, and then just as you arrive here, you're saying, but yes, you know, we have to pray for her, stuff like that, you know. She was always sort of cloak and dagger, and like she's looking after 6 different people that she got from the Satanic Church or something, but I never saw any evidence of it. I eventually got very skeptic.
Do you know about the so-called marriage between Satan and accused two?
No, it's not true that I know of, really.
But did you
I've
hear
never-
it?
I heard in the meantime, because of the case going on, people talk about it, unfortunately. The whole jail is talking about it.
Then there was also a lot of testimony of accused two having supernatural powers, that she could levitate, astro, travel, and also changing into werewolf, etc. Do you have any knowledge of accused two telling you like that or entering a discussion?
No, it's fairy tales. I read storybooks like that.
Is it a yes or no that if she ever mentioned something
No,
like this to you?
no.
Then Candace Rejovic, she testified that accused two made you believe that you had a fictional boyfriend, one John. Do you have information on that?
I had a boyfriend, John, and he was not fictional.
Did you meet him on your own?
Yes.
Because she testified, and she was quite adamant, that this character, there was a character for herself, Wesley, and also specifically for you, and you believe this fictitious character, and that you could only communicate via SMS. What would you say to that?
No, it's not true. He came to visit me.
Do you have any knowledge of any implants or chips planted into accused two?
No, that was just Nat that had a thing in her hand. I don't know about anything else.
Do you know of any orphanage and children that accused two had to look after?
Accused two had to look after.
Yes.
No.
Any knowledge of any orphanage that you guys had to contribute?
More than once, we helped people that lived at the dam those days when they allowed them to live there, but that's it. And they had babies.
Then there was a photo, it's exhibit 5T. Can we quickly have a look at it? I don't know which volume it is, my lord. If my learned friend could help me. That was a photo of accused 1 to
In
volume
file
5. Exhibit 5T.
It's 40.
40. My apologies, my
Are
lord.
there page numbers, sir?
No. It's in. Just take the. Which volume do you have with you?
5.
And exhibit 4 times T.
4 times T.
It is a photograph depicting yourself, Michaela, accused 1.
Oh, that not on
Is T. I've got T.
No, no, no.
Oh, it's the 5 Ps.
It's a P. So I can't hear. Oh, it's my apology, my lord.
5
P. A P and T sitting here. I'm getting old, my lord. My apologies.
When you cut the board, that's getting old.
You got that?
Yes, we found it. It's just stuck.
This is probably this headline.
We found it, Judge.
Oh,
Are you there?
yes. Thank you.
Do you know where that photo emanated from, ma'am?
Yes, I think the police took it off my laptop.
Where did the photo originate from?
We played Halloween, like in the movies. They always in the movies have, and overseas and here in our country they don't do it. So between us we decided we'll have this goth emo Halloween week, and we actually almost competed with each other to see what contact lenses and stuff we could get hold of, and Q-Tex and everything black. And I actually went to school like that week, and people asked me, why are you wearing like this? And I said, well, Christians can also wear like that. You don't judge people who look like that. We're playing Halloween this week. This is why I look like that.
Was
So
there
it was nothing hidden or...
any connection with the occult?
No, none at all. We had great fun playing like kids, dressing up.
I have 2 more, maybe 3 more questions. The relationship between Ria and accused 2, how would you describe that?
Ria and C,
Yes.
they were lovers.
Lovers meaning?
Well, I saw them kissing open mouth, so I'm thinking they were lovers. They had a love relationship.
Did you say it was a sexual relationship?
I didn't see anything, but I would assume so, yes. I didn't know it from the beginning, but I saw them.
Did accused 2 or Ria ever talk about the lovers' relationship with you?
Not then, no. At that point, no, and I pretended not to know them.
Then it's now common quarter. There's a rift. There was a rift between Ria and Cecilia. Do you know what caused that rift?
Well, I can only give my own opinion, you know, because there are differences, and having realized that they have a different type of relationship as everyone suspects, I basically saw it like a lover stuff. They couldn't agree about stuff, and they were emotional about it because they were involved with each other. So in the end, they broke up. But Ria was very jealous, and that was a great part of it. I experienced it myself. She would not allow any of us to be alone with Cecilia, for instance. She would follow me. We lived next to each other, and Ria would follow me all the way to Cecilia's flat when I'm there and listen at the window when we talk. Stuff like that. She was acting irrationally.
Now, do you know who broke up with who?
No.
You don't know that information. How did accused 2 react after the breakup?
She was very upset. She was sad.
Sad?
Yeah.
Angry?
Well, I'm sure she was at some point, but I never saw her angry. I saw her sad. I was there every time. Maybe it's just when she's with me, it was easier for her to just sort of, cry and whatever, but she was sad.
My last question is that the whole issue, the gist of the indictment also refers quite substantially to the fact that due to the parting of Ria and accused 2 wanted to get back to Ria, and therefore people were actually either harmed or killed.
You mean like revenge type of
Yes.
thing?
What would you say?
No. As far as I could see, and until she emotionally let her go, she would have done anything in the sense of nice things, like buying her chocolates, taking her nice stuff that she knows she needs, fruit. She would go and buy her fruit and stuff, and then Ria wouldn't want to take it because they were already, sort of separated. She would do nice things to try and get her to come, and be her friend again. But no, she wouldn't harm her in any way.
Thank you, ma'am. My lord, I have no further questions.
You'll have to come back tomorrow.
No?
You might let the stand till tomorrow, and the accused will remain in custody.
All right.